I'm Sue Duval. I'm a statistician in Minnesota. And I'm going to talk about the methodology of the Katsanis meta-analysis, and the legitimacy of the results was not my title. Let me see how I play that out. So, as has already been said, this is an unprecedented reaction to a meta-analysis. I've been doing this stuff for a long time, and this really hit the press at big time. Just so it's known, I'm a statistical editor for Circulation. I did not see this manuscript in review at all. I saw it when it came out. Just overall, this meta-analysis to me is reasonably well done. It's, as we've said, it's an aggregate level meta-analysis, which puts limitations on it from the start. And also mortality was not, it was only part of a composite safety outcome, so the data were presented as they were, so Dr. Katsanis only had access to what was reported in those studies. However, a mortality signal was reported, and the question is, is it really there? The other question is it premature to act upon? So I want to put on my hat as a reviewer, as if I had seen this before publication, and I saw some red flags, but let's just say that I don't think there's been one meta-analysis so far that I haven't seen some red flags on. And as I said, I believe this study was well done. I was concerned that there was no card-carrying statistician in the group of authors. I typically check for that, and so I couldn't help but give a plug for statisticians to be on teams doing this type of analyses in the future. This has been said a lot, but I think I still hold to this, that I did not see any attempts to back calculate what I believe to be the true effect measure here, which would be the hazard ratio. It could have been done in at least some other studies. The problem is that doing analyses like was done at several time points ignores the fact that some studies contribute more than one data point and some don't. I'm not going to go through all of these in any great detail, but I do want to mention the meta-regression, and not from the point of view of whether the dose was correctly calculated, because I believe there's been enough said on that, and in fact Dr. Katsanis gave us a different version of that today, which I believe is better. However, there's a potential bias called ecologic bias, which happens because the points that were put up earlier with the spline going through them, each study gets one of those points, and that point is an average over every patient within that study. So really the patients all get a different dose, right? But that analysis looks at it as if everybody is getting the dose at that mean, which is not true. And you can't do that with aggregate level data. And so it's been criticised in the past. Another couple of things. I mean, I can get really picky when I'm a reviewer, but there was a lot of sensitivity analyses and do this, do that. There was a lot thrown at these data. And some of them didn't get a whole lot of comment. So I'm wondering of the readers without so much statistical background, if they really understood what that was all about. Publication bias tests were done, and they really shouldn't be done with such a small amount of studies in at least the 5-year data. I also get this red flag because I appreciate that the protocol for the Katsanis study was registered, which is what we want people to do, but it was actually registered after the study was completed, and that makes me a bit anxious when I see that, because it doesn't give people enough time to look at it before they see the results. I have shown this slide before at the Viva meeting, but it's just trying to give an example of what can go wrong when you don't look at the full time course of something like mortality, because you can miss things. And so these are just made up data, but the trouble is if you try to look at survival, if you don't have the survival curves, but you just look at points in time, you may miss curves that diverge, curves that don't diverge. You don't really know what's going on, basically. So that was a criticism, and I think some of this may be able to be done, given the data as they are, but most of what I'm about to say is going to tell you what we're going to be doing from here on in. Just quickly, again, on the meta-regression, I think what was shown doesn't really reflect what's going on because of the reasons I said before, and individual patient data will get at those issues because we will have within study interactions at the individual level, which is the only real way to test something like dose response. So the title of this slide is the quote from the Katsanis meta-analysis, and I believe this is, I really appreciated this statement because a lot of meta-analyses end with finding a number and nothing more is said. So I can tell you what's going on in the US because I'm intimately involved. As we speak, there is a individual patient data, IPD meta-analysis of right now just the randomized control data from the 5 US-based manufacturers of the commercially available Paclitaxel devices. It's being led by Viva physicians. We have chosen, I say we because I'm working with Viva physicians as an independent academic. We chose a contract research organisation after a RFP process, so we had 6 groups send proposals to us and we chose the one we thought was the best, so we're now working with them. There's a steering committee being set up and 2 independent academic statisticians. I'm one of them. As far as industry involvement goes, the whole idea, as someone said earlier, is to be incredibly transparent. We're going to tell everybody what we're doing, and there's going to be, I don't get to see the data per se, just the company we chose. But industry, as we stand here, have supplied their RCT data to both the CRO and to the FDA, and is currently actually right now reviewing our protocol, our statistical analysis protocol. FDA is also reviewing our protocol. There'll be a call later this week for their comments. We do not have to react to comments from either FDA or industry to change our protocol, but we are accepting their comments. The big news is that there's a panel, FDA panel, being held June 19 to 20 this year, so in, 2 months? And if we want an answer, I guess that's going to be the best, that's going to be where we might find out what's going on, because at that point we will be presenting the results of our IPD meta-analysis. And just to end up, I guess the question is, are we going to find the same result as Dr. Katsanis did anyway? It's not always the case, and it's mainly because the IPD data sets may not actually be the same as the data sets that Dr. Katsanis had to work with. And when you get these individual data, you have the ability to reinstate patients that may have been excluded. what we do hope is that we get additional follow-up data, and industry are now back in the US contacting patients that were lost to follow-up. So that will be very interesting. And so, and of course, we're only using the US-based data, which Dr. Katsanis had more than that. 5-year study, we won't have Thunder because it's not available in the US. And we can also add Dr. Katsanis' data, or even IPD if he can get it to what we find.
Getting there. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, come a second, and then we'll get the other guy.